Some major developments overnight in the crisis on the Ukrainian border. Russia apparently sending mixed messages about its military plans moving forward. Overnight, the Kremlin announcing it's pulling back some of its troops near Ukraine, but there are new signs right now of more Russian troops being added in other areas. ABC's Faith Abube reports.
Tonight, President Biden says NATO allies stand united and are urging Russia to choose diplomacy and stop its military aggression towards Ukraine. Earlier in the day, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin traveling to NATO headquarters in Brussels, discussing troop deployments and other contingencies with NATO's other defense ministers if Putin were to order an attack on Ukraine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also speaking with his Russian counterpart in an urgent bid to de-escalate the tensions. Blinken adding that the U.S. needs to see verifiable, credible, meaningful de-escalation from the Russians. That's in response to the Kremlin saying it's drawing down its forces. The U.S. and its NATO allies are currently assessing those claims, in addition to Russia saying its military exercises will be over in the near future. Russia's military releasing videos today apparently showing tanks being loaded up on transport. But U.S. officials say the Kremlin's large-scale military exercises near Ukraine continue with up to 150,000 troops still in place. Satellite images from the last 2 days showing a significant buildup of Russian forces.
So far, we have not seen any de-escalation on the ground.
Ukrainian leaders also say they'll believe Russia is drawing down troops when they see it. Meanwhile, Ukraine's cybersecurity agency says a massive cyber attack has crashed its Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces websites. The hack also impacting two of the country's largest state banks. It's unclear who's behind it, but the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have been warning of a potential Russian cyber attack amid the Ukraine crisis.
And several hundred soldiers from the 101st Airborne and Fort Campbell have now been ordered to deploy to Eastern Europe to support NATO allies in the region. It's part of the larger effort the U.S. has already announced, and none of the U.S. troops are expected to enter Ukraine. In Washington, Faith Abube, ABC News.
We've been hearing a lot about the tensions between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine for weeks now, but a lot of us are wondering, how did we get to this point? Let's take a closer look. The roots of the issue go back to the Soviet Union. Ukraine was a part of a Russian empire for centuries before becoming a Soviet republic, and they won their independence when the USSR broke up in 1991. The country has tried to have closer ties to the West, of course, other than Russia. But in 2015, a Ukrainian president wanted to have closer ties with Russia. That sparked protests and his outing in 2014. That led to claims of Russia supporting these rebels with troops and weapons, even though Moscow denied it. A peace agreement was brokered by France and Germany to help in large-scale battles, even though political settlement has failed and sporadic skirmishes have continued. So what does Moscow want? Well, the Kremlin has accused Ukraine of failing to honor the 2015 peace deal. They're criticizing the West for not holding Ukraine compliant. The agreement would require Ukraine to grant broad autonomy to the rebel regions and offer sweeping amnesty, which would be a diplomatic coup for Moscow. Ukraine has pointed to multiple ceasefire violations by Russia, by separatists, and the U.S. officials have conceded that Moscow's intentions are unclear if they will actually invade, but cite that the country's past behavior is cause for concern.